What is up, Dodger fans? NLDS, Phillies, Dodgers. Your Los Angeles Dodgers swept their way through the wild card round. No real chance for the Cincinnati Reds, which was great for Dodger fans, a stress-free series. Now the big fun one begins as the Dodgers go on the road as the 3 seed to take on the 2 seed Philadelphia Phillies. This will be, in my opinion, the toughest matchup possible for the Dodgers. We're going to dive into all of that. This is the Incline Dodgers podcast presented by Believe and Tick Pick. Jake Reiner in the house. He's in Vegas. We've got friend of the show and big fan as well, Justin Llamas, in here as well to break down this National League Division Series. Jake, I'm going to flip it over to you first. You lived through the 2008-2009 NLCS, so I'm sure that's in your head a little bit. Overall, kind of what are your thoughts of this NLDS?
My thoughts is that I feel like it can be a haunting haunting memories of when we got knocked out by the Phillies the last time. I just see Jonathan Broxton on the mound giving up that go-ahead double to Jimmy Rollins, and it's just playing over and over in my head. Or the Matt Stairs home run off of Jonathan Broxton again. Just so many bad memories. This is going to be the toughest matchup for the Dodgers in the postseason, I believe, because if they get past the Phillies, then I think they'll have an easier time with the Cubs or the Brewers, depending on who advances there. And then I don't think there really is anybody on the American League side that I'm too worried about overall. I think this is going to be the toughest matchup. And of course, it's a short series. It's a 5-game series. So every inning is going to matter. And of course, the Dodgers not having home field advantage is a big disadvantage to them, and a big advantage to the Phillies, because their home field advantage is second to none. Their fans are insane, and it's a tough environment to succeed in. But the thing that I'm most worried about, and I think what we're all most worried about, I would assume, is the bullpen. The Reds were no match for the Dodgers. The scores indicated that it was a breeze, but there were certain moments in those games where the bullpen kind of just blew up. And because the Dodgers had such a big lead, they were able to weather that storm. I don't know that they're going to have a big enough lead against the Phillies to be able to take on that much water. So I'm worried about that. I think these games are going to be a lot closer, and the bullpen is going to matter a lot more. And I think I'd love to get into it with you guys about what you think this bullpen is going to look like and who you trust the most.
Yes, we're going to talk about that, and that ties us now into the Game 1 starting pitching matchup. Shohei Ohtani on the mound for the Dodgers, taking on the new ace because Zach Wheeler is out for the season, Christopher Sanchez, who had a great season himself. Sanchez won 13-5 with a 2.50 ERA. So I'll kick it over to Justin to just first talk about this starting pitching matchup at a high level.
Good afternoon, or in my case, good evening, Kevin and Jake. Thanks for having me on here. So yes, Philadelphia came over to LA in late September. We remember that series very well because that was a continuation of the bullpen implosions that we've been seeing on. And we did take a look at Christopher Sanchez in, I believe it was the second game, the 16th of September against Christopher Sanchez. He went 7 innings, gave up 4 runs. We were in that game. Unfortunately, the bullpen imploded. We saw Blake trying to give up an absolute nuke to the backup catcher, Rafael Marchán. And we were basically in that series. I don't know how much you take regular season performances into the playoffs because they're two different animals. But we were pretty much in that series the entire time. In both the Monday and the Tuesday game, Philadelphia got to our bullpen, and eventually it led Philadelphia to win both games and allowed them to essentially clinch the 2 seed, clinch the tiebreaker, and essentially put them way too far from us in terms of catching them in the tables. So I don't believe Game 2 and Game 3, the starters have been announced yet, but I believe it'll be again the two lefties. It'll be Ranger Suarez and Jesus Luzardo. So And anyway, as for Christopher Sanchez, he's having an absolutely great season. He's having a great season. We did get to him in September. Unfortunately, the game was too close in terms of, like, they had the bullpen advantage at the very end. Our bullpen imploded at the very end. Eventually, Johan Duran, when it got to him, I think he gave up a run or two, but in the end, the margin was way too big. He ended up getting a save against us, and so yeah, it is pretty much about the bullpen, how you can bridge the seventh, the eighth to get to the ninth inning. And if we don't have a lead against Johan Duran, well, that's going to be a challenge for us. As for Shohei Ohtani, the Dodgers did plan to pitch him in Game 3 against Cincinnati, but since we never got to Game 3, we won in 2. It was very clear Shohei Ohtani was going to be the game 1 starter. I believe he's going to pitch 6 or 7 innings. Not 7, maybe 6 innings. They're going to pitch him further than he's had the entire season because Shohei Ohtani knows, the Dodgers know that the bullpen has been a major weakness. Tanner Scott has been ineffective all year. Kirby Yates has been effective, and he's not going to be on the roster. He's injured. And Blake Trinan has been up and down, up and down. He had a poor September.
Yeah. Let's go back to Christopher Sanchez because I think it's important to kind of note the pitcher that Sanchez is a 1.94 ERA at home. So I think that's kind of a platoon advantage for Sanchez. He's been death on lefties all season long. Just 1 home run surrendered to left-handed hitters. But I will note the Dodgers seem to be his kryptonite this season because he had 2 starts against the Dodgers and a 5.68 ERA against us. 4 home runs allowed over those 2 starts as well. So as dominant as Sanchez has been against the rest of the league, the Dodgers have seemed to figure this guy out. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of gives me some optimism going into this matchup. And on the flip side, with one of our top starters, Shohei Ohtani, it wasn't that long ago on September 16th, Ohtani lit up the Phillies. He threw 5 no-hit innings. They couldn't touch him. He had 5 strikeouts as well, and then the bullpen unraveled, unfortunately. To what Justin mentioned, I do think the plan here is that Ohtani hopefully will be able to go 6 innings. And because this bullpen has been just so inconsistent, and we saw it in the 2 wildcard games as well, we thought Emmett Sheehan was going to be dominant out of the pen. He struggled with command. Henriquez couldn't get an out. He was a disaster. I wouldn't be surprised if Tyler Glasnow pitches out of the bullpen in Game 1 for this NLDS series because the Dodgers are in a luxurious position where there's enough off days sprinkled in between the Game 4 alignment, which is where I would assume Glasnow is, because there's Saturday, and then normally there'd be a Sunday game for Game 2. They're actually giving us an off day. So Game 2 is on Monday. Then there will be another off day for travel, and then Wednesday, Thursday. That would give Glasnow enough time to be fully rested for his Game 4 start if they go to a Game 4.
Yeah, I like that idea. I think, like you said, it does line up that way. I wonder, though, if maybe they're going to try Emmett Sheehan again, or they're going to go to Justin Robleski, or even Roki Sasaki for multiple innings. Roki Sasaki is a guy that has looked every bit as dominant as we thought he was going to be. He has been unhittable. His splitter is the nastiest thing I've ever seen, and he looks so locked in to this role that he's in that I wouldn't be surprised if they put him out there for a couple of innings. But I do think, Kevin, that they need someone who can give them some length out of the bullpen to piggyback off of Shohei, because as we've seen, you didn't mention Vesia, but he also struggled. Jack Dreyer also struggled. Enriquez, like you mentioned, these guys are not trustworthy right now, and it is very, very scary going into Philadelphia, because if you think it was a sweat with the Cincinnati Reds, who have a horrific offense, this Phillies offense is just as good, if not maybe even better in some cases, than the Dodgers lineup. I still would take the Dodgers lineup because we have Shohei, the best player on the planet. But like in terms of comparing the 2 lineups, the Phillies lineup is probably the scariest one in for the rest of the field in the postseason. So I am really nervous about this series because of that bullpen. And as we saw with the Red series, it didn't feel like a lead was safe with them, even though it should have.
It got
Yeah,
dicey
especially.
sometimes.
Go on.
Go
Yes,
ahead, Justin.
especially considering that. Pardon for interrupting, but yeah, especially considering Philadelphia has guys like Kyle Schwarber, Trey Turner, Bryce Harper. Could you imagine the eighth inning? Let's say who are you gonna throw out against Kyle Schwarber in a one-run game with runners on first and second? Are you gonna throw Vesey out there? Are you gonna throw Joy out there? These are our two best lefty options there against these guys, and they've had their up and down moments.
Yeah, I would go Vesia, but we'll
Or
dive in.
Bonda.
Oh yeah,
Don't we think Bonda's going to be on this roster?
yes, I completely forgot. Yes, he will be on this roster, I
Yes.
believe. He's not nursing an injury or anything, right?
No.
No, he
Okay.
was left off for performance issues. Yeah, I mean, the Phillies are a much better team at home than on the road. So I would love for the Dodgers to obviously win both games because then they would have complete advantage. But I think winning one of these two games is a must, especially in a best of five series. I don't want a game five even seen in Philadelphia. They've been dominant at home. They're 55-26. Dodgers were basically a 500 team on the road. But it was nice to see them sweep the Mariners near the end of the season and get some momentum to put their road record above 500. With Ohtani, I just feel like he is pitching at his very best right now. He threw 14 and 2/3 scoreless innings in September with 18 strikeouts. And his last two starts where he was just flat out dominant when he had the 5 no-hit innings and then six super efficient just cruise control innings against Arizona. Ben Rortvedt was his catcher in both those starts. So this kind of brings up a controversial topic that if Will Smith is good to go, I think, especially if Ohtani has this idea and vouches for it, I think I still want Rortvedt just catching Ohtani because it kind of reminds me of Austin Barnes in 2020, where the starting pitchers just seem to be more comfortable with a defensive first catcher. And Rortvedt has really made his presence felt behind the plate. I kind of don't want to break up that strong chemistry going.
I agree, honestly. Weirdly, I agree, and it's such a strange notion to be like, no, we're good, Will Smith. Like we've got Ben Rortvedt, which is such a strange thing to even utter. But it's not even just his catching though, Kevin. It's his what he's doing at the plate too. I mean, he delivered a big hit in that wild card series, but also he's a great bunter. And he gets the bunt down whenever they ask him to, and moves the runners into scoring position for Ohtani and Betts. And I just feel like keeping him behind the dish, just keeping the things the way that they are. Catchers love throwing to him. Rortvedt brings a certain scrappiness and edge to this team that maybe wasn't there the whole season because he's really, I mean, not to say that these guys aren't playing for something, but it really feels like Ben is playing for something. And to have that mentality in your lineup and behind the plate as a catcher, I am with you. I think Will Smith is break glass in case of emergency. If you need a big pinch hit opportunity late in the game, a matchup thing or whatever, would love to have Smith because he's a good pinch hitter too. He was really good as a pinch hitter. He's a good pinch hitter throughout his career. So I think actually using him as that weapon is the best thing to use him for right now, given his injury.
And saying to what answering to what Jake said earlier is if Ben Rortvedt is if he's playing for something or he's playing like he's playing for something, technically yes, he's playing to stay in the major league roster. He has no options, so he can't be optioned down. So if he sucks, he has to be DFA. But I kind of agree with both of you in a way that the the pitching staff seems to perform better with Ben Rortvedt is on the lineup. He's performing well at the plate. I have no idea how sustainable it is, but at this moment he's performing well at the plate. He's bunting well, and of course Will Smith is still nursing an injury. The big question is if Will Smith is fit enough, he's healthy enough to start maybe 2 or 3 games. Will they roster all three of the catchers? Because as of right now, I see Rortvedt's a lock. Smith, I'm assuming he's healthy. Or he's healthy enough to be on the roster. He's a lock. So now the question is, do you put Rushing on the roster? Because I don't see
Yes.
I'm okay.
I say yes. I say yes because if there is an injury to Will Smith, then you only have one catcher left,
Yeah.
and they would love to just have that insurance policy. And also, I don't think it's a bad idea to carry rushing. He's
Yeah, I don't think
he's a
so
good
either.
player.
I just wondered if they were gonna, because let's say they roster, if they let's say they roster all three of them. Will Smith gets hurt, he has to be placed on the IL. He can't come back until, what is it, like the World Series or something like that.
You miss a round.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you're removed from the division series roster, yeah, at this point you wouldn't be eligible until the World Series. So for me, yeah, I think I would keep Will Smith on the bench as a pinch hitter for game one. That also gives them a little bit more leeway so they can pinch hit Will Smith and not have to worry about only having Rortvet left, because then if you keep rushing on the bench, you have that emergency policy. I don't think the Dodgers are going to get too crazy either with their player swaps. My guess is that Hae-Sung Kim comes off, Kershaw goes on. I think the way Henriquez pitched in this series as well, he's coming off, and probably Anthony Bonda would come on. And other than that, I can't think of any other changes at this moment. I
You think
still
they?
feel like
Sorry, I was going to say. Do you think they keep Justin Dean on there?
I was literally about to say, yeah. So I think they're going to keep Justin Dean just because they like him as the defensive replacement and pinch running opportunities. They didn't seem to be shy away from putting Dean in the eighth inning. They pulled Teoscar out right away and put Dean's defense in. I know you can kind of get the same with Alex Call, but for whatever reason, they just love Dean.
Yeah, I think because Dean is, I think by trade a center fielder, right? So it just is such a great option to have him out there. And oh my God, in game two of that Red series, when Teoscar Hernandez dropped that fly ball and it led to the Reds scoring 2 runs, I think in any other playoff situation, the Dodgers lose that game because you just can't give away runs to
Oh
another
my God.
playoff team. And the good news in that game is that they were facing the Reds, so there's always a shot. And the
Yeah.
Reds won 80 plus games. It's like you looked at all the rest of the wild card matchups, and it's like the Dodgers and the Reds were the biggest disparity in talent because all the other ones went to 3 games, and all the other ones were very evenly matched. And so, yes, they definitely need a defensive replacement because I just do not want Teoscar Hernandez in right field with the game on the line. If we have a big enough lead, I mean, obviously you have to do it case by case because it could be the case where the Dodgers are in a tight game and you need Teo's bat in there. But man, him dropping that fly ball in right field, I went crazy.
I'm not convinced Conforto's coming on the roster either. I think you keep him off. What value does he bring?
And another thing we also forgot to we didn't mention is when Teoscar Hernandez dropped the ball, it would have been the 3rd out of the inning, and instead it caused forced Yoshinobu Yamamoto to pitch it. I think throw 12 more pitches, and every pitch counts. That's gonna add. That means, I don't know, 1 or 2 outs less he can get later in the game, and it also means the bullpen will come early in the game as well.
Everyone hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can drop questions below in the chat as well. We're previewing this baby, so let's have some fun.
I would love to talk about that moment with Teo because what we've seen from him in right field, obviously this year hasn't been pretty, and I think a lot of it has had to do with him not just not having the range that is needed for the position, and him just taking bad routes to balls. But in this case, he was there, he was underneath it, and all he had to do was secure the catch, and the thing bounced off the heel of his mitt. I could not believe it.
So
even with all of his defensive struggles, I could not believe what I was watching.
Bro did an Aaron Judge impression in the World Series.
Yes, basically that.
We warned fans all season long that something like that was going to happen because there were just so many indicators and other routine errors that Teoscar Hernandez bobbled. So leading up to this, I wasn't surprised. I'm just glad it happened against the Cincinnati Reds because if that happens on the road in Philadelphia, I think we're going to pay for it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. We're going to pay for it. And that'll be that we'll lose a game like that because of that. It just, the good news is though, Kevin, is that Teo has been great at the plate, which is a great sign. The power's there. The clutch is there. He really, in that first game, because it looked like Hunter Green had kind of settled in at that point. When he hit that 3-run shot, it was like boom. It was like bam, we're winning this game now, because that was just a momentum shifter for the entire series.
And speaking of Teoscar Hernandez hitting well, he's actually hit Christopher Sanchez well thus far in their head-to-head matchups. 5 for 12, 2 home runs. That's a 417 batting average. Throw in 4 RBIs as well. So he's going to be my standout hitter in this game 1. So I'm going to throw out real quick what I think the Dodgers game plan will be if it lines up beautifully. Be conservative. I'll say Ohtani goes 5 innings. Then they bring out Tyler Glass now. He goes 2 innings. Unless Kyle Schwarber's due up in between all that, then Alex Vesia might be sandwiched in between them to face Kyle Schwarber, because Schwarber's actually 0 for 7 up to this point against Alex Vesia. So I think we're going to see a lot of Vesia and Schwarber matchups. So that's going to cover hopefully 8 innings. And then you mentioned Sasaki. Yeah, throw him out there. Let him close it. Him or Triton. And I think that's all we're going to need is 4 or 5 relievers, and we're set for game 1.
I think they really do. They really should be leading on Sasaki. I'm just he just looks so good. He just looks so good. His command is there, and his confidence is there. I would love it if they just were like, you know what, you're the closer now, or you're the guy at the back end of this bullpen.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Tanner Scott has not looked convincing all year long, and it was a choice. Well, I don't know if Tanner Scott is going to be in contention even now to close in the 9th inning, but at this point, I would rather go.
He better not be.
You give him low leverage innings, probably a mop up.
Exactly.
The Scott train is on pause. I think it's the Sasaki show now with his 101 mile per hour fastball. He just looks like a different pitcher. He looks like the guy advertised from Japan. I mean, it's Paul Skeen's electric stuff in just a 1-inning mold right now. So I love it.
Yeah, because I remember back in May, or pardon me for interrupting. I remember back in May and June he got injured. We were talking. I was watching even your podcast with you and Jake. Your episodes, you were talking about like the fastball going down, the velocity going down. Maybe he was nursing an injury. He clearly was nursing an injury, and yeah, not having the confidence, walking hitters, and when he throws a strike, it was down the middle, and hitters would punish him because his fastball wasn't particularly great. Now we're seeing. I don't know if it is because he had such a long layoff. He's back. He's fresh or whatever it is. But yeah, now we're seeing exactly what we got out of what we were promised in Japan.
You know what he reminds me of is, remember when they put Kenta Maeda in the bullpen? Yeah. Like that, it just reminds me of that, where it was like we needed Kenta to be a reliever, and he just became a great reliever and was terrific during.
Too bad he didn't come out game 5.
Spot on comparison, Jake. I want to talk about these Phillies bats real quick, because this is going to be a focal point of the entire series. So like in my head, I'm picturing this Phillies lineup to be more of a juggernaut and kind of unstoppable. But then I look at the numbers at its entirety, and it's a little more underwhelming than I expected. Like Nick Castellanos is having a down season, really hasn't been much of a factor. JT Realmuto, former All-Star catcher, he's kind of regressed as well, and now he's kind of more league average in terms of hitting. It really is the Kyle Schwarber show. 56 home runs, but then I had to double take these numbers, and I was surprised to see he's only hitting 158 against the Dodgers on just this season with just 1 home run. For some reason, I thought Schwarber was teeing off on us, but maybe that was the years past that I'm just molding together.
Really? I feel like he has more than 1 homer against us. That's wild.
That's all I saw.
Totally good about that.
And then Bryce Harper. Go ahead, Justin.
Go on, Kevin.
Bryce Harper, down year, only 27 home runs. I think he's been dealing with some injuries as well, a lot of wrist and arm injuries that have kind of took away from his power. But this is a guy that you can't sleep on in October. He's basically like Kike Hernandez, except he does it all year round. He doesn't just wake up for October. Career-wise, Harper has 1,000 OPS in the postseason with 17 home runs. So even if Harper hasn't been himself this year, this is a guy I'm not going to sleep on. You cannot give him a pitch to hit. If the bases are loaded or there's a runner in scoring position, you cannot make a mistake to him. He's going to make you pay. He's a Hall of Fame player for a reason. Those are the main two. Trey Turner is the National League batting champion with a 304 batting average. But until I see him prove otherwise, I don't think he's going to be 100% and fully effective because he's been nursing a pretty significant hamstring injury. And I think the only reason he's coming back now is because it's the playoffs. Otherwise, I think he would still be on the IL. So I expect that to impact his base running and maybe even his defense to an extent. He was playing pretty good defensively at shortstop, but that was prior to the injury. Pardon me for stuttering there. I was too much in my head. But anyways, I don't know how you can play an effective shortstop with a bad hamstring. I think that is going to be a factor. And then Harrison Bader was acquired at the deadline. He's been a good bright spot for them. At home, he's a 330 hitter at Citizens Bank Park. So I'm not going to sleep on him as well. But other than that, it's just a bunch of role players like Alec Boehm, Brandon Marsh, Bryson Stott, and then a couple bench bats like Kemp and Sosa. But this team can be had, I will say.
They can be, but it's important in this first game because the Dodgers are going to be batting first as they're the road team to come out swinging and maybe put some runs on the board in the first inning. To take the crowd out of that game in game one is going to be huge. And what better start to a game than to have Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, or Teo, Freddie, doesn't matter, to really make a statement. I mean, can we just talk about Mookie Betts for a second? I feel like we should do an entire podcast where I just talk for an hour and apologize to this man because, wow, what a season he has turned around. Ever since he had that conversation with JD Martinez, it has seemed like he just has flipped a switch. And take a look at what he did in that Red Series. He was 6 for 9. That means they only got him out 3 times, 3 RBIs. That's a 667 average. He had 3 doubles in that last game, just put his mark all over the place, playing an immaculate shortstop. I mean, this guy's a freak athlete. And to me, I just love seeing Mookie Betts being the guy that we know he is, which is a guy that can carry an offense. That's the guy I want to see. And I'm so happy to see that happening already in the playoffs. So I'm excited for that first inning. It's going to be, hopefully it's going to be a statement from this team.
Definitely. If Mookie Betts is performing like this, I'm definitely going to like our chances to win the World Series this year. Because remember, in 2022, 2023, Mookie Betts was a no-show in the playoffs. We were knocked out of the first round. I think it was toward the end of the San Diego series last year. Mookie Betts went off, and it pretty much carried on to the rest of the playoffs. He got the game-winning RBI in Game 5 against New York, sac fly. Mookie Betts has pretty much proven he can carry an offense. And as we were talking about Philadelphia's offense, right, JT Realmuto, Nick Castellanos, age has definitely got into them. Nick Castellanos is not even playing every day anymore. His role has been reduced to a bench bat. He has not really performed particularly well since signing that contract with Philadelphia. However, he has had some moments in the playoffs, especially in 22 and 23, hitting some home runs off there. You mentioned Trey Turner. He's been injured, but even when he was healthy, throughout all his years with Washington, even with us here in LA and of course in Philadelphia, he hasn't. His OPS, I don't have the numbers with me right now, but last time I checked, his OPS in the playoffs starts with a 6. So Trey Turner, even when he was fit, he wasn't exactly a great postseason performer anyway. So if you're looking at Philadelphia's lineup, it is really about containing Schwarber, who can go off and hit a bomb at any given time. And of course, Bryce Harper, you mentioned his OPS starts with 1,000. And I guess, well, I did trash Nick Castellanos a little bit, but he can also go off in the playoffs whenever he gets to play. And yes, everything else, they're a bunch of role players, like you mentioned. They can definitely handle guys like Alec Boehm, Bryson Stott. Who else is there? Marsh.
And what's interesting as well is that the Phillies were even scarier, I think, last year, in my opinion, and they got bounced in the NLDS by the New York Mets. So they've had some playoff hiccups as well the last couple of years. So it's not like they've been unstoppable, especially when pressure's applied to them.
Oh yeah.
Mookie Betts has been sensational. The 3 doubles that Jake mentioned tied a Dodgers franchise record for doubles in a playoff game by Jim Gilliam way back in the day. So continue to ride his hot bat. I already threw out Teoscar Hernandez as my standout for game 1 to keep a lookout for. Any other Dodgers hitters that you think could make an impact in the first couple games?
I think Max Muncy is going to make an impact in this series. I just feel like he is a very, very important part of this lineup in slowing things down. If the Dodgers' other hitters are being too aggressive, he really slows the game down and is that perfect speed bump in the middle of this order. So I expect Muncy to have a good series.
The thing I have a question about Max Muncy is I expect Philadelphia's first 3 starters to all be lefties. Luzardo, it was Sanchez in game 1. I'm assuming they're going Suarez game 2, Luzardo game 3. Is Max Muncy going to get enough at-bats to in this series? Are the Dodgers going to start Max Muncy against one of these lefties?
I feel like they are. I feel like they sort of made a statement by saying, you know, Kike Hernandez, we're going to start you in the outfield, which, God, I love that. I love that from Dave Roberts. I love that from this Dodgers organization, that they were like, you know what? We don't care about feelings. Michael Conforto, you can stay home. We're fine. We have Kike Hernandez, and we're going to put him out there in the outfield. And Kike has delivered once again in the postseason.
I think Muncy will start in one of the 2 road games. I would be kind of surprised if he starts in both of them, given that they are both left-handed starters. I think they try to go with Rojas and definitely Kike in all the games. But Kike's hot credit, and Jake talked about him a lot for last round. He went 4 for 8 in the wild card round. There were months in the season where Kike had 4 or less hits for the entire month. And in a wild card round, Kike already got 4 hits. I'm calling a prediction now. He's going yard in one of these 2 road games, whether it's off Sanchez or Suarez. He's taking one of them deep.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, he just, it's a different player. He's a different player, and they know that. And I'm so, because we were thinking like, you know, is Kike Hernandez going to even get a shot? Like, it's kind of like you can't really find a spot for him and here and there. And Dave Roberts was like, we'll find a spot for him because we need him, and he needs to get 3 to 4 at bats a game. So it's just awesome to have him again.
I mean, if your postseason OPS starts with an 8, as isn't the case with Kike, the club will find a way to put you in the lineup. And talking about Kike, yes, Michael Conforto not playing well all season long pretty much solved the entire problem. They were going to start Kike Hernandez no matter how poorly he hit in the regular season. Yes, in the regular season, his OPS plus in his career is 92, but they pretty much signed him because, for one reason only, they know he's going to rake in the playoffs. And the Michael Conforto thing, him not performing well all season, pretty much solved themselves. So that allowed them to put Kike in left field.
Rojas has seen Suarez a lot, probably from the Marlins Phillies matchups. So Rojas is 6 for 20 against Ranger Suarez with a 733 OPS. I would imagine they get Rojas in the lineup for game 2. I would think, but I mean, I
get what you guys are saying about Muncy versus lefties, and while I don't disagree that he struggles against lefties, I just don't see how you can have him on the bench. He is too important of a piece in this lineup to me to put him on the bench, even against lefties. I mean, even if he doesn't get on base or if he gets out, it's like, you know, he's going to make that starting pitcher throw a ton of pitches. And that is huge in order to get these starters out of the game, get into that bullpen early, and really throw off their game plan.
It's just the luxury of having, you know, all the options, because Rojas has been kind of teeing off on lefties recently. So
yeah,
you kind of want to have that platoon advantage. And I know you're not benching Kike at any cost. So when you have a guy like Muncy who's kind of struggled against lefties, I would just maybe have him come off the bench as a bat when there's a right-handed reliever in the game, because he's hitting 157 against lefties with a 564 OPS.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I can see it. I can see it going both ways. Honestly, I just feel like his at bat quality is second to none on this team.
We'll get to some
Yes.
comments and questions momentarily. I see people in the chat saying stuff, so I encourage you, hit that like button and drop questions.
Yes, it is. I mean, while we're having this debate about Max Muncy, I'm also thinking, what is the club going to do? I don't believe the club is going to have him start all 3 games against left-handed starting pitching. He's going to sit at least one of them.
Yeah, I agree. The bullpens is kind of a wash at this point. Both teams have had bullpen struggles, and both teams have a 4.27 bullpen ERA on the season. The difference is that the Phillies were a little bit more aggressive leading into the deadline. They added Johan Duran, who the Dodgers did get a blown save against, which was nice to see. And then they added David Robertson as well, who's a very proven, established veteran, high leverage guy. But I mean, what you're going to see is Matt Strom come in a lot, especially against Ohtani and Freeman, because he's a lefty reliever. All-star last season, 274 ERA. You'll see a good amount of probably Orion Kirkering as well. He's been pretty effective with a 330 ERA. Tanner Banks, another guy they go as a swingman. You'll see him. He had an ERA in the 3s. So those are the standouts. And then Duran and Robertson will be their high leverage guys. And then the question mark I have, which we're kind of jumping ahead here and we'll have more time leading up to it and probably intel. Does Aaron Nola come out of the bullpen, or do they use this guy as a starter? I would guess
they start him.
I would guess Walker Buehler starts over Aaron Nola at this point.
Because of his postseason ERA?
Walker Buehler has had like a crazy short run with the Phillies where he's been really good. I think I texted it to Jake. It was like a 0.66 ERA or something ridiculously low over 13 innings. And I mean, he just won the World Series last season and was pretty much effective in all his starts. So if I was the Phillies manager, I would go with Buehler over Nola, who while they both have been bad, Nola's been bad the entire year.
Yeah, it's just tough because it's like Nola has been their guy for so many years, and it's like, you're going to go with someone else over him who has, like you said, had a really bad season in Walker Buehler. But I think, like the Dodgers did with leaving Conforto off and starting Kike Hernandez, it just feels like, we got to go with what we think is the best option for us to win this game or to win this series. And so I think they would be dumb not to go with Buehler just based on his postseason acumen in some capacity. And against his old team too, I think, I don't know, that could be good or bad, right? It's like the Dodgers know him well, but he also knows us well and has great postseason numbers. And I don't know. It's a tough call because you're choosing between two guys that just really haven't had it this year.
One thing we also did forget to mention is Aaron Nola has also been pretty good in the postseason as well. I believe Philadelphia is going to start Aaron Nola for Game 4 and leave Walker Buehler come out of the bullpen. They also have Taijuan Walker, who they've swung back and forth between the rotation. He's had a big contract. He's been very up and down. He's also going to be an option, probably as a mop-up or a swingman or probably late in innings. So we'll see what they do with him.
We will see. I'm looking at Nola's game logs. He showed out against the Twins, but other than that, he got shelled a lot.
Yes,
he got shelled by the Brewers, the Diamondbacks, the Royals,
and he was injured too this year. Injured for the first time
in September. So I don't know. Even if Nola has had some postseason success, Walker Buehler has had a lot more postseason success. So I kind of think that's where they'll lean. Questions I see. Let's do this one. Philip, Catalfamo. I'm sorry I butchered that. I know Phil. Yeah. He's been on this show. He's a friend of ours.
You nailed it, Kevin. You nailed it.
Will Glasnow be the first arm out of the pen on Saturday?
Well, you seem to think so, Kevin.
I'm pretty inclined to believe that Glasnow is the first arm out of the pen, unless they go the lefty first, Bonda or Vesey or Dreyer. But yeah, I'm highly convinced Glasnow's pitching in Game 1.
I'm more inclined to believe they're going to save him for a traditional starter role, but it will not surprise me at all if he is used out of the pen in game one. But as of right now, I have him penciled to start, especially because we knew what happened with him in April. He got out of the game early. The weather, whatever, was something happened with his cleats. He was not happy in that type of environment. And Philadelphia is a hostile environment. Something tells me with Tyler Glasnow he's going to pitch better at home than he is on the road.
I just feel like it depends on this game situation, right? It's like if the Dodgers are, up big or down big, it's like there's really no reason to use a guy like Tyler Glasnow. But if it's a tight game and Shohei's kind of at the end of his rope, I could see that happening. I mean, Glasnow has said that he is willing and able to do any role for this team. Before we get to the next segment, I just want to ask this question: do you guys think we'll be seeing Clayton Kershaw at some point in this series?
Yes.
Yeah, but low leverage. I don't think they're going to go to Kershaw in high leverage against the Phillies. I think they'll just try to squeeze him in for an inning, whether it's a 5-run lead or a 5-run deficit, and they just want Kershaw to get 3 or 6 outs. I don't think you go to Kershaw in high leverage in this series. I would be surprised, to be honest.
Yeah,
so Trolley
totally.
Dodgers, I don't agree with your Rortvedt take, Klein. We need Will Smith's right-handed bat against the Phillies lefties. So, I mean, I see the argument for sure. Like, Will Smith is one of the best hitters in all of baseball, especially against lefties. The issues that I just have some concerns upon is, one, Will Smith hasn't played in a few days, so how rusty is he really going to be? And two, if this is really him overcoming that mental hurdle of injuries, is that going to affect him behind the plate catching?
And especially given at this point, runs come at a premium, and the pitching staff seem very comfortable with Rortvedt. At this point, you would rather take the catcher that is better at calling a game, who makes the pitchers more familiar, more comfortable with than a slight advantage offensively at catcher.
Yeah, it's just such a tough call, honestly, because like you said, we haven't seen Will Smith play in a while, which could mean something, could mean absolutely nothing. I mean, he's such a great player that I don't really think that time off or whatever is really going to affect him one way or the other. But I think you risk ruining what the Dodgers have had with Rortvedt and the pitching staff, and they're not even allowing Rortvedt to really swing the bat anyway, even against right-handed pitching. So I don't really see what the big deal is of having him at the bottom of the order for basically a sacrifice bunt here or there. If it means that Ohtani's comfortable with him and all the rest of the points that we made, but I understand the idea is you don't want to deliberately put a lefty bat in the lineup against these tough throwing lefties if you don't have to. But I feel like the pros of having Rortvedt in there kind of outweigh that.
Yeah, I have nothing else to add. Anything else for this Dodgers Phillies series you wanted to get out there before we kind of switch subject?
Yes. One thing I'd like to talk about is how fantastic our starting and pitching has been for most of the last month, and that's gonna play much of a factor here. How I see it is, we won the World Series last year with 1.5, 2.5 starting pitchers. Now we essentially have 4 guys who can start as aces, who can be number ones for any other team, with Snell, Glasnow, Yamamoto, Ohtani, and as for Philly, they won 1 playoff game last year. Were bounced in the first round with Zach Wheeler, who has been one of the best postseason performers in our time, and he's not going to be able to pitch to come to play in the series. And we also saw that Nola was fantastic last year. He was fantastic last year, coming of or at least he was very good in the playoffs. And well, this year he's been injured and he's been bad when he's been playing, and I don't expect to see much out of him. So I do believe one reason I have a lot more optimism than I normally would have in this series is we do have a starting pitching edge, especially considering how last year we won the World Series with what 2.5 starting pitchers, a bullpen game, punting game, left, right, left, right. Brett Honeywell, here you go, 8 innings. I don't care if you give up 7 runs, but we need you to save our dogs, our big arms. And yes, the bullpen's been a little shaky, but at least I do not believe this team has to quote unquote punt games this year, have to throw out a Brett Honeywell to 8 innings. And we're trying to patch up a starting rotation like we did last year.
What I love about the Dodgers starting staff going into the playoffs and now leading into the series is this is about as strong as a core four that I could ever recall as a Dodgers fan, which is wild to say because at one point we had both Kershaw and Zach Greinke in our back pocket, and they were both Cy Young worthy pitchers. But now
And Ryu.
and Ryu, yes, that's good point. But now you've got these 4 elite starters, as well as just the entire month of September, where the Dodgers starting staff set a record for holding their opposition to a collective 173 batting average against, which no staff has ever done. And then we just saw in these first 2 wild card games where Blake Snell and Yamamoto were able to pitch deep enough into the games to earn quality starts and really keep the Reds hitters off balance. Yamamoto's stat line would have been way more dominant if Teoscar didn't make that error. He probably would have thrown a 1-run 7-inning gem or something. And now that we go into this series, we got the days off. There's enough off days also in between this series that I think just really favors the Dodgers because you've got Ohtani game 1, but now you get to go back to Blake Snell for game 2 because there's enough time in between game 1 of the wild card series and this game 2 of the division series. Then you can go to Yamamoto and then Glasnow. And then if we get to a game 5, there should be enough rest in between all these starts that the Dodgers can either go back to Shohei Ohtani or they can give the ball to Blake Snell. And so they're going to have options.
Has it been confirmed that Blake Snell is going to go game 2 and Yamamoto game 3?
I don't believe it's been confirmed, but I just don't see why the Dodgers would flip them and not give Yamamoto the extra rest.
I mean, it was suggested by Bob Nightingale a few days ago on a tweet. I just don't know if that's what they're planning to do because I don't know. Maybe they were going to go Snell game 2, maybe throw Tyler Glasnow early for game 3, give Yamamoto extra rest. But although Yamamoto does already have enough rest, considering his last start was Wednesday the 1st, and game 3 is the 8th, so that would be 6 days of rest.
And that's why I also think they will use Tyler Glasnow in game 1 because you kind of get him some reps in there so he wouldn't be completely rusty by the time game 4 rolls around. So you can kind of take advantage of an extra arm.
Yep. Nothing to add there.
Wild card recap real quick. I think we covered most of it. Dodgers were just all over the Reds. They averaged 9 runs a game. Teoscar Hernandez went off. Ohtani went off. Betts had a fantastic series. Everybody really stepped up. The way the Reds, or I should say the way Francona managed that game 2, you would not have thought this is the guy that's been to multiple World Series. He looked like the rookie out there, and Dave Roberts just looked like the well-established mastermind. Like, I just didn't get the whole Littell thing from the get-go. And then the way they used Ladola and some of those other guys,
Nick Martinez,
and Burns, and Burns way late when it was already out of hand. I don't know what Francona was doing, to be honest.
Yeah, it comes down to we're splitting hairs a little bit because the Dodgers are so far and away a better team than the Reds, but it's like, when you're in a postseason game, you really have to try and win on the margin sometimes, and making those mistakes and not maximizing the talent that you do have is detrimental. I mean, we saw that with game 1 too. It's like we had Dusty on the show talking about, why aren't they starting Sal Stewart, and like, why are they prioritizing defense? It's like, no, they got to prioritize offense. You see these starting pitchers that the Dodgers are throwing out there, they need all the support they can get. And there was another pitching decision that they made. Oh yeah, when they took out Barlow and they brought in that other guy to come face Teoscar Hernandez, and he hit a home run off of him. I'm just like, Barlow was cruising, and it's like, why would you take that guy out? Because they didn't use him in game 2. So it's like, what are you saving him for something? It just, all those decisions didn't make any sense.
It was just levels in class different. We were basically on a different level. The only reason why this game was pretty much close was the 8th inning, and it seems like the next time they should play, when they play playoff games after the 7th inning, they should either call the game as is or jump from 7 to 9.
Any thoughts on the Padres getting knocked out by the Chicago Cubs in the wild card round?
They just have no. I was just gonna say they just have no identity. It's just a bunch of dudes with talent, but there's no cohesiveness. It's like Manny Machado's been there and he's a great player, but just like his attitude after losing that series was just like, this is the culture we have here in this Padres clubhouse, that is like, he's taking an attitude with the reporter for asking, him to assess their series, and it's like, he's talking about, well, what are you talking about? We lost. It's like, yeah, we lost. We're asking you to reassess the series and tell us maybe why it happened, or give us your thoughts on maybe what you guys can do better. But it's just this whole attitude of like, he can't be bothered. And like the way that I don't know if you saw that clip of the umpires coming down the dugout steps, and like all those players just like hounding them for that. Yep. And granted, it was a bad call on Bogaerts. It was a low strike. It was a ball that they called a strike. So I get that, but it's like, you guys barely scored any runs anyway for those games. It's like, what do you expect? Do you expect to win? Because and who's to say Bogaerts would have even gotten on base? It wasn't even like, they were down a couple runs at that point. It's ridiculous. But yeah, they don't have an identity. And also, you talk about, Dave Roberts in the beginning of his career, right? It was like, he kind of was a deer in headlights in some moments where he just didn't really have a feel for the game. And now he's kind of become this like grizzled veteran. He's very cerebral. He makes a lot of great decisions now, but in the beginning he didn't. That's kind of what I look at. Like when you look at Mike Schilt, that guy should not be the manager of this team. He stinks. He doesn't know how to run the clubhouse. He makes bad managerial decisions. They got to clean house and get rid of him and get a guy in there that knows what he's doing.
The crazy part you say that is because Mike Schilt actually does have managerial experience with St. Louis, who was there for 3.5 years before getting.
And he wasn't that great with them either.
Exactly.
Let me ask you this, Jake, because I have a different opinion than you. Who would you have manage the Padres then?
I don't know. I don't have a name off the top of my head, but someone that is a better in-game manager than him.
When you keep going through managers year after year, and it's veteran guys and people that have been doing this for a while, Bob Melvin, Schilt, I think that falls on the front office and the player personnel. And I think your first point was more accurate than it being on Schilt, because it isn't just a collection of talent, and they don't have any true leadership within the clubhouse. The manager can only do so much, but Manny Machado is not a leader. Fernando Tatis Jr. always has his head up his ass. Juan Soto couldn't wait to cash his paycheck, no offense, Justin, and be out of San Diego.
That's true. No, that's true. That's true.
It's a collection of a mess, and they keep trading for new players. They want to deplete the farm, bring in more talent, but there's no leadership. And I don't think any manager can fix that.
Well, the biggest problem with San Diego is Manny Machado's OPS in the playoffs starts with a 6. And he's not had one signature playoff run where he's absolutely went nuke. Like, for example, Corey Seager's was known as a bad playoff performer until he went absolutely nuke in 2020. And then he did it again in 2023 with Texas. And if you look at last night's game, Machado, Arias, and Tatis, their top 3 hitters, went over. Basically, all 3 of these guys had bad series. Cronenworth also had a bad series. They had, Bogarts and
Yeah.
performing, and the catcher Fermin, and pretty much nobody else. San Diego doesn't. I mean, the strength of San Diego was their bullpen, and that's only going to be a strength if you have the lead. Their starting pitchers don't pitch deep into games. Their offense doesn't slug. Their offense was middle of the pack the entire season. That was not a recipe for winning games in the playoffs.
If I was the Padres, I would trade Tatis Jr. this offseason and just kind of reset. I don't know how much you could get for him because of that contract, but I don't think he's ever going to be successful in San Diego. I think he's kind of like in that Yasiel Puig mold where he might be talented, but he's more of a clubhouse cancer than actual addition as a whole. So they're going to lose.
He was bad when he was with us. Like it was like he played well, but there were certain moments where the whole Johnny Hustle thing, like it was just bad, like a bad juju in that clubhouse.
They're going to lose Cease. They're going to lose Arias. The way they had to lean on you, Darvish, in game 3 for 1 inning. That's just pathetic.
That's bad game planning anyway. I mean, why are you starting you Darvish anyway? If you're only gonna get 3 outs out of him, the minute he gets into trouble, he implodes. You're gonna go with a bullpen game anyway.
Michael King looked pretty good coming out of the bullpen. Why didn't they go with him?
Yeah, and then they pulled him out and they brought somebody else in, and they pretty much rode Robert Suarez. They ran him to the ground.
Yeah.
He gave up the home to Michael Busch, Dodger legend Michael Busch. It is almost as if they're trying to punish Robert Suarez because they know he's opting out. He's going to leave in free agency, so they're intentionally trying to tank his value. But I'm being a conspiracy theorist right now. They're going to be enjoying the Hollywood lifestyle right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're in trouble.
People in Anaheim. So
I don't
that's how people notice me.
See any questions, so I guess we're good there. Jake or Justin, any final thoughts? Anything else you want to throw out there, whether it's the NLDS or around Major League Baseball?
You got anything, Justin? Because I have one thing that I wanted to bring up.
Let's start with you first, and I'll go next.
So I saw that Brewstar Gratterall posted on X, and I just wanted to read this to you. Again, this is he wrote it in Spanish, but this is translated to English. He says, I'd like to tell all my Dodgers fan base that I would have liked to be in the postseason, but my rehabilitation hasn't been easy. So I've already changed my mindset for 2026. Thanks to everyone for always being attentive. I love you, Dodgers fans. And it's so unfortunate because Brewstar was such a big factor in us winning the World Series last year in the postseason. And how nice would it have been to have him in this bullpen as much as this bullpen has been struggling, to have a guy you can really rely on like that, like the bazooka. So I hope he comes back ready to go in 2026. But just kind of a sad season for him, or non-season, I should say.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And yeah, what am I gonna say? Oh yeah, hopefully we get some revenge from Philadelphia. What they did to me in my childhood back in 2008, 2009. Matt Stairs, Jonathan Broxton.
I'll use the question that just came in last second from callme_Astro to tie into what my final thoughts are. Does the bullpen do enough against the Phillies? I think Dave Roberts is going to be very smart with his bullpen usage. And in years past, the Dodgers showed, for whatever reason, they wanted to pull starters after 5 innings and avoid the third time through. But I think that mind shift has really kind of changed, especially this season. And they're gonna lean on these starters a little bit more. And I think they're gonna try to have the goal of guys like Ohtani, Snell, Yamamoto, et cetera, go 6, and so that they don't have to lean heavily on the bullpen. But I think Blake Treinen's going to step up. I think he's going to be the Blake Treinen of old. I'm pretty confident that both Vesia and Bonda, if Bonda's on the roster, are going to have their effective moments as well. And I think Sasaki is just going to continue to light the world on fire. And he's gonna trick Dodger fans into thinking that he should be the closer next season, even though I know the game plan for Sasaki is for him to be a starting pitcher. But people are going to be locked in and glued to seeing him be a weapon out of the pen and they're going to demand Sasaki to be the closer.
No, I don't want that. I want to see what we saw in Sasaki in Japan. I want to see that realized. I think the way he started this season was kind of disappointing. I think for him and just everybody watching. But yeah, I don't. We can find a closer elsewhere. He needs to be a starting pitcher. At least we got to see what we have.
And I think Sheehan will bounce back. I think that was just the yips. I'm confident Sheehan is going to unlock his potential,
Yes.
and he's looked good all year long. So there's no reason for me to be out on him. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning into our NLDS preview of the Incline Dodgers podcast between the Philadelphia Phillies and the Los Angeles Dodgers. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment below who your star standout player will be for the Dodgers in this series. And if you're listening on the audio feed, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, or whatever. Again, we're brought to you by Believe, and hit that like button and leave a review and 5 stars, everyone. All right, we'll be